Last year, looking at Clemson, they stumbled out of the gate in Durham, lost 28-7 to Duke. Pete Thamel, a repeat of that in week one this year would probably mean an ugly scoreline. What's this team been saying about this offense with Cade Klubnik and OC Garrett Riley back together for year two?
Well, the Clemson offense has been in a slump, and that's the reason Garrett Riley came for 2023, was to jumpstart it. But the issue at Clemson has been glaringly clear the last three seasons. They simply haven't had the skill position guys that they had when Trevor Lawrence was there, that they had when Deshaun Watson was there. The good news is this is the best Clemson receiving core, talent-wise, in several seasons. Antonio Williams, back healthy from his ankle injury, gives them a huge boost. Tyler Brown had one of the best true freshman seasons of anyone in the ACC. And if Bryant Wesco, the freshman from Texas, who's a top 30 recruit, can bring back some of that juju from the old Clemson receivers, we will see that offense finally move forward.
Yeah, Pete, couldn't agree with you more, especially on those skill guys. I think the other thing, too, that Clemson has sort of suffered from, in a sense, is the previous successes of a Deshaun Watson, of a Trevor Lawrence, because those were two guys that set an untouchable standard almost, right? Like, we're talking about two guys that made immediate impacts in the NFL. And then so when a guy like Cade Klubnik comes in, still a very talented player, but people expect that sort of play from every quarterback that has followed since those guys. And that's just not a realistic expectation year to year. So now that he is in his second year with Garrett Riley, I think that you're going to see a Clemson team that is going to look more like their old selves, especially with an offensive line that had only returned one offensive player last year, one starter last year. They're returning 4 this year. So that's usually a good group. They could be great this year.
And you're going to see a Clemson team facing a Georgia team that might have the top overall NFL draft prospect and the guy who could go number 1 overall. And Jordan, they are different people. Carson Beck has added some weapons. How do you expect this version of these dogs to look?
Well, I think it's going to be same old Georgia offensively, and that means a lot of 12 personnel and then also good enough wide receivers on the perimeter. Yes, they do have a lot to replace. Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint was a really good player for them, but the top 2 weapons last year was tight end Brock Bowers as well as Lab McConkey. Now they bring in Kobe Young, who's a talented transfer from Miami, as well as Trevor Etienne in the backfield. There's a lot of excitement about him. So with Carson Beck, he has to take it to the next level with this Georgia offense. Now he has to be a catalyst with them looking to replace so much. And also they added tight end Ben Yurosek from Stanford, who is expected to be a big boost for them at the tight end position.
Well, if Clemson can find a way to get a late lead in that week 1 opener in Atlanta, it'll be unfamiliar territory for Carson Beck. All of last season, he took 17 snaps in the fourth quarter with Georgia trailing. It goes without saying, very few full-time starters had fewer. Hey, in primetime, August 31st in College Station, we have Notre Dame and Texas A&M linking up for just the 6th time ever. It's a reunion of former Duke coach Mike Elko, now at A&M, and his ex-QB, Riley Leonard, who's now in South Bend.
We were on the phone about 3 weeks ago joking that we should come up with some scripted answer that we both give for the amount of times this question's going to get asked this offseason. But, he's extremely competitive. No, he's extremely competitive, and we're going to get one shot at this, and there's not going to be a rematch. And so someone's going to be 1-0, and someone's going to be 0-1. And so I think we're both going to do everything we can to make sure we're on the right end of that for sure.
Yeah, sorry for anybody who wants some animosity between us. I can tell you we're both very competitive. I know his defense very well, and he knows my tendencies, so it should be a good game to watch for sure.
Eyes on the QBs here, but you were in South Bend with Riley Leonard this week. What can you tell us about his transition into this offense in the midst of rehabbing from ankle and toe surgeries?
Well, Phil, the most interesting thing about Riley Leonard is that he's chomping at the bit to get going. He joked with me that in high school, he was a 0-star recruit until Duke took him as a commitment, and they put 3 stars by his name. When he got to the portal, he was obviously a 5-star recruit in the portal when he went to Notre Dame. Well, he's felt like since he missed the entire spring with the combination of both ankle and toe injuries, that people think he's entitled, and that really, really grinds Riley Leonard's gears. We don't know what he's going to look like in this offense because he hasn't played yet. We'll find out once camp starts today, but Riley Leonard's 100% healthy and ready to let it rip.
There's a lot of excitement about Riley Leonard, and that's simply because he has better weapons on the perimeter. And in that Duke offense, a lot of NFL scouts and people around the country felt that it was very vanilla, and he didn't get a chance to really show off the strong arm that he does have. But with Mike Denbrock coming over from LSU, we saw what Jaden Daniels was able to do in that system. Now you plug and play Riley Leonard in this Notre Dame system along with Denbrock. That's why we're seeing so much excitement about this Notre Dame offense spearheaded by Riley Leonard.
Yeah, you mentioned Mike Denbrock. That's obviously a big addition in what we saw him do at LSU last year. I think the big key for Riley Leonard is going to be his health, because I think the key that's going to be different for Notre Dame this season is obviously he is the most versatile quarterback that Marcus Freeman has had since he's been in Notre Dame, and yes, that is a short time, but this team is really going to go as he goes. Riley Leonard, when he was at his best, was one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football last year, and when he was not at his best, that Duke team definitely suffered greatly because of it. So as long as Riley Leonard is playing a consistent brand of football, this Notre Dame team is talented enough, Jordan, as you mentioned, at the skill positions around him to really do some damage this year.
Jordan, for Texas A&M, they have an incumbent. What are your expectations for Connor Weigman this season in College Station?
It's kind of TBD, honestly, to be determined. But going into the season, he is one of the more talented quarterbacks overall in the SEC. And you go back to the small sample size that we saw of him last year, he only played in 4 games. But I go back to that Miami game, and I thought he was absolutely terrific in that one. He's making high-level throws all over the field. He has a very strong arm. We're talking about somebody that is a former baseball player as well, so he has that background that you love to see from an arm talent perspective. This is a quarterback that is very talented. In the first year under Mike Elko, we saw what Elko was able to do at Duke. Weigman is one of the more talented quarterbacks that Elko has ever had. Now he just has to stay healthy and prove that he can be the guy moving forward.
A&M is the first SEC opponent in a season opener for the Irish since 1996. That was Lou Holtz's final season. 7:30 p.m. kickoff 1 month from today from Kyle Field on ABC.
Give me something.